Hello everyone, welcome to the second lecture of the Transportation System course. In this presentation, I would like to explain how we are using transportation system in the context of urban and regional planning. One of approach that we can use to explain transportation system is the land use and transport integration. In this approach, we are combining two aspects of transportation. The first one is the transportation itself, and the second one is the land use. The reason for the main background for this approach, we can see in this picture below. If we look at spatially, for example, from aerial view by aerial view, we can see that we cannot completely separate transportation network shown in the black lines and the land use around them. Actually, the construction of the transportation system is constructed to fulfill the demand generated by the land use around them. For example, we build a transportation station, maybe train station or bus station here, to enable the citizens from this area, from this residential area, to go to another places using transportation system. Any changes to the land use will also affect the transportation network, and also vice versa. The changes in the transportation network will affect on the land use. For example, if we eliminate the station, for example, here in Rothwell Station, we can predict that the at least land value around the station will be decreased because people around here cannot go anywhere using the transportation system. Same thing happens, for example, is there is rapid development, high development in this area, conversion from open spaces to housing, for example, we can expect that the demand to the station will be increased. And sometimes maybe the management of this transportation system, the transportation network, need to upgrade the station here to fulfill the demand of the residents. So the land use transport integration view of transportation system is unique to the planner profession. Because if we talk about transportation, it's not only discussed in the Department of Urban Regional Planning, but also other departments also discussing about transportation system. For example, civil engineering, maybe industrial engineering. They also talk about transportation network and transportation system. But this is unique for us because we have to consider both. We cannot separate land use and transportation. We have to take into account both aspects when we are developing the plan in this study area, in this plan area. So this is what makes it different between transportation system in other department and transportation system in urban and regional planning. Because transportation system in urban and regional planning using the land use and transport integration approach. Next. The interaction that I mentioned earlier between the land use and transportation can be categorized into seven interactions, or what it's called is the 7Ds. Between the density means the density of the population that needs or served by the transportation system, the diversity of activities that's around the transportation system, the design, the distance, the access of destination, how easy to go to one place to another, and the demographic characteristics and the demand management. It means the final one is demand management, that we have to take it into account all of the six Ds. And this is also make the transportation system that discussed in urban regional planning is different to transportation system in other department. In urban and regional planning, we are more focusing on the demand management. We're not focusing on how to construct a new transportation system, but how to manage the demand of the transportation system. For example, in urban and regional planning, movement between one place to another to work, for example, can be managed. And even if we working from one, if we live, if our house located far away from the place of our work, for our workplace, in terms of urban energy planning, this is not a good thing because we have to go far from our house to the place of our work, and this is can be managed by, for example, moving the workplaces closer to housing areas, to residential areas. Another example for demand management is that we can have some kind of time management of when the citizens of the city require transportation service. For example, we can make a regulation, we can propose a rule that students of a school has a different time to go to the schools compared to the employer. For example, if the schools open at 7 a.m. and the workplace, the offices should open at 8 a.m. in the morning. This is to avoid that both activities, school activities and working activities, has the same time demand. In this way, the demand will be more flattened, will be more flatter, not has any peak. Both activities, the school and office, do not have the same work time. So it's easier to, so there is a higher chance that each of them can be fulfilled by the existing transportation system. For example, if a bus system in a city can accommodate 1,000 passengers, on the other hand, there are 700 students and 600 workers. If all of them came to same, if all of them go from their home to their destination at the same time, this will exceed the transportation capacity because the transportation capacity is only 1,000. But if both go at the same time, it needs 13, 130,000, 1,300 capacities. But if they go at the different time, for example, students go in the morning first, then the 700 students can be accommodated by the transportation network, transportation service, for example, by buses or trams or trains. And afterwards, at 8 o'clock, the workers can go to their office. And this even can be managed further, for example, by moving schools closer to where the students live. So the demand for the transportation is lower. So this is also what make urban and regional planning view to transportation is different, because we don't just say that we need to construct new road or add more buses or add more carriages to the train networks, but we also say that we need uh, to manage the demand, to avoid the demand of transportation exceeding the current capacity of transportation network. So next, we have example of variables that we have to consider when we want to develop a transportation network in urban or regional area. In regional, I think it's the same, the basic concept, either on urbanized area or in rural areas, because connecting urban areas and rural areas has the same concept, the same key concepts, that there are variables that we have to define. First one is the density concept or causality relationship, that we have to consider employment variable density, residential density, activity density, population density, proximity to infrastructure, and land use diversity. And then we also have to consider distance of residential area to the city center and the vehicle may travel, or in other words, how far that vehicle should go to between the house and the work areas or school areas. So this is the first one, the causality relationship or the density concept. And the second variables is the joint decision of residential location and travel choice, or self-selection affected or self-selection issues. Because as we all know that when we go to our home, to our schools, or to our workplace, all of us have different choices. We can choose how we can go to from home to the school or to workplace. We can use motorcycle, we can use bus, we can use taxis, or we can use bicycle. Each of us can make our own decision. However, our decision will also affect others. So we need to define the variables, decision maker attributes, how to structure vehicle ownership, etc. That we can predict in a certain area how much vehicle is owned by the residents. Does each of the household has one car or two cars or three cars? Then we can predict the traffic that will be generated. We also can predict by, for example, using based on the demographic characteristic of an area, we can predict how much students needs a transportation service to go from their home to their school. And this is the variable that we have to consider also. So between the citizens, between the users, even they their own can have their own choices. Their choice will affect others. For example, if all of the students from a for example, if all of the students decide that they are going to use public transportation from home to school, the demand for the transportation service will be higher. If if some of the students decide that they want to use a private car or using a motorcycle, the demand for the public transportation will be lower. Actually, we cannot as a planner, we cannot perfectly predict how the citizens will go from their homes. But we can make an assumption based on the studies on other locations, for example, how much transportation demand will be generated. Then we have to consider all of these density variable. And the last one, the key concepts in land use influence transport, is the co-location hypothesis, that we need to consider the number of trips, commuting time and distance, urbanization, employment center, residential mobility, workplace mobility, house price, and wages. We all have to consider these variables when we are going to develop a transportation network. So in short, planning and developing transportation network is not only based by the distance and the cost, but also we need to consider the land use, we need to consider the demography, we need to consider the mobility characteristic. For example, is it from home to school or from home to industry or from home to offices, etc. This is all the variable that we have to consider. Okay, next. I will show you one example of how we can implement to application of land use and transport integration, which is in the transit-oriented demand concept at aggregate level. The example I show you here is the local government of Arlington County, Virginia, encourage transit-oriented development within quarter to half mile or 400 to 800 meters from the county's Washington Metro Rapid Transit Station, with mixed-use development, bike sharing, and walkability. So the government of Virginia encouraged development around the stations. For example, the red color here, the black line, this is show the transportation network. This is the tram line, and the red line, red circle show the station, the train station or tram station. There are, for instance, in this example, we have 5 train stations, and the government encourage and push development around these train stations from 400 to 800 meter. So shown in the green areas. So in these green areas, government promoting the development to make to make the development here really connected to the transit. That's why it called the transit-oriented development. That the development around here is oriented to a transit facilities. And here we can see the street level of the area in Arlington, the mixed-use development, the high-rise buildings consist of apartment building, office building, shopping mall, apartment building, office building, pedestrian, and etc. So this is what it's look from above, aerial view, a transportation network, and then the train stops, train stations, and the development around them, surrounding the train stations. And from the street view, we can see that the development around the train station. This is very common in European countries, in European cities. The getting into a train station is almost like we're going into apartment or office building or malls. This is also very, I think, in developed countries had a lot of this. For example, if you go to not too far to Singapore or Malaysia, a lot of train stations are located within or even under a big office building. So we go into building from outside, it look like a shopping mall or apartment, but actually when we go inside, we can see a train station inside, tram stations. For example, this is the very famous one, the KLCC in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Yeah, the KLCC around there is a big shopping mall, the Surya Mall, or I forget the name. There's a very big mall in KLCC, and if we go to the train station, we go to the inside of the mall first. And this is the example of application in land use transport integration, which is transit-oriented development, among others. But this is what is becoming trend now. That when we want to utilize the transportation network as much as possible, we should also promote the development around them. And this is also good for the funding to construct the train station. This is a very common scheme that the train station is developed by a private organization. For example, developed by the owner of the shopping mall. So as the compensation, he has the land to develop his shopping mall around the transportation network. So this is a very common one. And in Indonesia also, we can see some development of the transport-oriented development. The famous one in Jakarta, in Blok M, There is a government program to develop a transit-oriented network in Blok M in Jakarta. In Surabaya, for example, we have one example of transit-oriented development, which is in Terminal Joyoboyo near Wonokromo. So in Surabaya City, the old uh, the old bus station, is redeveloped with a shopping mall and parking facilities above the old bus station. And this is the example of transit-oriented development in Surabaya, in Joyoboyo Terminal. So this is the specific terminology that I show you. That the first one is the land use transport integration and transit-oriented development. I hope you can follow the pattern. The transportation system in Department of Urban Regional Planning is using the land use transport integration approach. And one example of land use transport integration approach is transit-oriented development concept. So you can look for other concept or other approach if you think that the land use transport integration and the transit-oriented development is not suitable or not justified with your need. You can look for another example of approaches. Okay, next. So this is the common framework of land use transportation system integration. Here we have two main source of the system. The first one is the travel demands, the demand of travel, and the second one is transportation supply. So this is what is also what make it distinct between our department with other department. For example, urban and regional planning focus more on travel demands, while civil engineering and transportation engineering focus more on transportation supply. So as a planner, we don't say that we have to build this much capacity. We're not just saying that, but we can say that we can reduce the demand. We can manage the demand. So we should not only saying that we need to build something new. We don't say that build the road, build the train, buy more buses or buy more train, for example. But we have to manage the demand first. How we can fit the demand using the existing transportation facilities. So this will be different with civil engineering, for example. They are usually considering that construct a new road. They want to construct a new road, while planner does not always. Sometimes we also say that we need to build a new road, but that's not always the case. Sometimes we also need to say that okay, we need to do something to make travelers or users of public transportation can be accommodated by the existing network. So between the travel demand management and transportation supply management, we have the integrated transportation system, which is basically combining both travel demands and transport supply, travel demand or travel supply. And there are some variables that we have to consider. For example, price elastic demand, the changes in pricing or the exchange rate. And then we have developmental demands. We're not only thinking about today's requirement or today's demand for transportation network. We need to also consider the demand for the future conditions. There is also exogenous demand, population income increment. We have exogenous also price changes, fuel, labor, material, and then we have travel cost changes and land use change rates. And then the next one in urban economics, another aspect of one aspect of urban regional planning is urban economics. We have application of land use and transportation. First, transportation planners are concerned with the spatial distribution of population and employment, constitute a primary input into transportation demand models. transportation planners, strict transportation planners, for example, coming from Department of Civil Engineering, concerned with the spatial distribution of population and how to serve them, how to provide transportation service based on spatial distribution and population employment. But transportation planners that came from urban and regional planning, for example, said that spatial distributions can be managed, can be changed. So it's not just about how to provide transportation public. It's not always just about how to provide to provide transportation infrastructure, but also how to manage the spatial distribution and population. And then also the major linking the demand and supply side of this market, for example, price, rent, and land of the property. Developers, builders, landlords, or supplier compete each other, want to maximize profits. And homeowners and renters want to maximize the price to pay. Due to scarcity, they need to fight to particular location. And I will show you how to explain the relationship between transportation and price that they have to pay. So this is the very famous graphic about illustration of urban land rent. This diagram is this picture, the half circle shows the spatial configuration of an urban area. In the center, we have central business district. In number 2, around central business district, we have industrial. This is the old configuration of European cities during industrial evolution. We have commerce and offices in the center. We have industry around them. And last one, we have residential with high density. So the vertical axis shows the price of land rent. For example, this is the price, and this is the distance from city center. For example, in CBD, around CBD, the price of rent is very high. Moving a little bit further in industrial area, the price is lower, and farther away in residential areas, the rent price is the lowest. So this will affect what kind of activities can be allocated. For example, retail shopping centers, for example, they will have to pay a lot of money if they want to be located near the city center. And also at the opposite, the farther they are, they have to pay lower. They also need to pay more price. They have to pay more money to be able to locate it in near city centers. That is the relation with the housing prices. And this is the earlier graphic I show you, this one. In urban city centers, we have central business district, high-rise buildings, offices, commercial areas, and then we have industrial, we have zone of transition, and we have finally the commuter zone. And this is the land use and transport influence on urban structure. So the configuration of land use and transportation also have influence into urban land use models. For example, the first one, the easiest one is the Burgess model. Then in center, we have central business district, zone of transition, zone of independent work home, zone of better residence, and commuter zone. The next model, if the sectoral model from White, is still in the center, we have central business district, and then we have number 2 is transportation and industry, transportation facilities. For example, train stations are located here, and industry also located here, and then we have low-class residential, and we have middle-class residential and high-class residential. All of them will need a different rotation facilities. For example, high-class residential usually prefer private cars compared to public transportation. They prefer to use their own car than going using bus or train. This is the second model, the Voigt model. And this graph explain how land use and transport integration connection with the urban structure explained by the bit land theory. In short, the farther away from the central business district, the price of land is higher. So different activities can only afford at certain location. For example, shops and offices can afford high land values of the CBD. So this is the location of shop and offices. So, but industry cannot afford the highest land values, but it cannot be too far away from central business district. We have because they have to access the transportation network. So this is the location of industries, the range for industries. The last one is housing can only afford low land values. So this is the area for residential area, the area of price. So they are willing anywhere to rent anywhere in this area. This is for shopping, this is industry, and this is residential area. So this is will change. We also have the influence on the urban transportation because certainly residents, people in residential area need to go to industry or to central business district. That's why they need a transportation service. The same thing industry and also need to go to bring their goods to shop and office. That's why we can also manage, for example, if we set up some shops in residential areas, the need to provide transportation service will be lower. Okay. So not only with shops, so the shops are not only available in central business district, but also available in residential areas. So this is the relationship also, the travel time, land rate, or property value, and wages trade-off. That people will choose among location based on location attractiveness for a particular type of activity and location accessibility to other activities. For example, location farther away for central business district is not always the cheapest, but sometimes people also like to have a quiet neighborhood, for example. They don't want to have a lot of disturbances, so they want a quiet environment. This also can make the land cheaper. And this is very common that the farther away housing from central business area, central business district, the price will be lower. But this is not always the case. That I mentioned some real estate, the high class real estate, also located in places far away from central business district because there are something else that they are offering. For example, the quietness, the calmness of the area. But in principle, because people live in CBD need an additional price to pay, additional cost. People who live far away from CBD need to pay additional cost to go to CBD. They cannot afford a very expensive house, so they're using a trade-off between property value and wages and transportation. So people in CBD, people who live nearby the city center, they can they can afford to buy more expensive houses because they spend less in terms of transportation cost. But people live farther from CBD need to pay from additional cost. That's why they have reduced capability to pay for the housing. And basically, this is land rate or property value and wages trade-off. The farther away, the price of land will be lower. Okay, next. Okay, that's it, everyone. That's the basic concept of land use and transportation interaction. Feel free to have any question to contact me from WhatsApp. If you have any question